So hello everybody and welcome to the agency sessions. And today we would like to cover a very important topic that every homeowner or every person willing to buy a property in Spain, probably has a lot of questions relating to these topics, which is the legal part of owning and purchasing property in Marbella. And for this, we are sat today with Señor Miguel Manzanares, who is the CEO of one of the biggest and most recognizable law firms here in Spain.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Miguel.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Nice to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
So please go ahead and tell us a little bit about the vision of your company and your speciality, the fields where you deliver services to your clients. Tell us a little bit more about.
Well, the two wings, the two areas where our law firm is specialized is in property law and tax law. That was the very beginning of the law firm since 1995 that I founded the law firm. By the end of that year, then I decided to do the legal practice in those two fields, property law and tax law. As a consequence of property law, there are other divisions of construction law, and we also do the legal advice for developers, and also as a consequence of property law, international property law, we attend a clientele coming from every corner of the world, and we have a strong immigration law department and tax law in general. So that's really what Manzanares is recognized, is really known as an expert in those fields.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So you have actually a very extensive history. You mentioned 1995, right? This is when you founded your company.
Exactly.
Wow. So we're looking at 30 years.
Yes.
So you've probably seen quite a bit.
Yeah, we have seen so many situations, so many different clients and deals. So, like I said, we have just existing clients, more than 28,000 clients.
Wow.
So, which have been many more with the pass of the time. Some of them are not with us, or some of them sold the property, but existing clients, more than 28,000. So these are many contracts and many completions, many notary offices attending, and many negotiations with different parties. So yes, we have treasured with the pass of the time extensive experience. Yeah.
Wow, extensive experience indeed, and we're very happy to share this with our audience. How is the purchase process in Spain? Perhaps a little bit different. And why would we always recommend our clients that when they start with the purchase process in Spain, one of the first, if not the first step, is going to be to have a legal advisor or a lawyer on their side? How is that? Because in other countries I see it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, the lawyer in Spain is absolutely necessary when buying a property, because the process doesn't count with any professional that is going to do the due diligence and the legal checks and inspections about a big number of legal things around buying a property. In some other systems, you go to a notary, and the notary is doing many more things than in Spain. In Spain, the notary is highly recognized professional in front of who the conclusion of the deal is formalized. So make sure that the parties are correctly identified, that the document complies with all the set of different legislation and regulations, and the price is paid and the keys are handed over, the conclusion of the deal is done. But the notary himself or herself doesn't look after the legal searches around the property. For instance, we have to make sure when a property is bought that we go to the land registry and obtain a certificate that will confirm that the property is owned by that person that says to be the owner, that the property is duly registered with full description of the property matching the property that you saw and free of charges, liens and encumbrances. But also we need to check how legal that property is from planning and zoning point of view. And that is something that the notary and no other professional will do that for you. So we have to check that the property was permitted with the correct building license, that the property was executed and built exactly as it was permitted, and the property counts with the license of first inhabitation, which is the bless from the town hall that the property was built according to regulations and according to that very license that was granted. But also we have to check many other things, like the rules governing the community of owners. We read the last few years of the minutes of general meetings of the community to understand and learn what's going on, if the piping system is not working, if the property is about to be painted, if the elevators have to be replaced. So many things that have to be discovered within the course of due diligence and legal searches. Also, make sure that the property has a correct water connection, electricity connection, rubbish collection. All the taxes are paid up to date. The meter can be changed under the name of the new owner. So all this big number of checks that I am describing now are only checked by a professional, by a lawyer. So therefore, and also very important, the discussions with the other lawyer about the wording of the contract, how the relevant agreements are going to be safeguarded and formalized. So this is all under the hands of your own lawyer. Mm-hmm. So the system itself is expecting you to appoint a lawyer, because the other party, the selling party, has also a lawyer that is expecting to start up that dialogue, providing that documentation to another lawyer.
Well, it sounds like it also, makes life much more easier for a buyer, right? You are in a foreign country, and all of a sudden you find yourself with regulations, laws, and situations which you don't need to be understanding 100% correctly. So I believe it's a fantastic support to have somebody not only helping you with the legal side, but also to understand the intricacies in the market. Now, what is a realistic or let's say maybe an average time frame in which, so from the day you decide I want to buy this property and probably you place a deposit, a reservation deposit, to all the process up until the day of the notary when it's officially been handed over, the property is handed over to the buyer?
We can say that it's a general time frame around 8 weeks. 8 weeks, because we say, okay, in general, from reservation, you have around 4 weeks to complete due diligence and sign a contract, and another extra 4 weeks for completion. But of course, this is general, and every resale deal is unique, and therefore it depends on both parties. For instance, sometimes the vendor says, okay, after we sign a contract and you do the due diligence, you pay the 10% at the contract. I need 6 weeks time because I need to move my furniture from this property to other. So therefore, there is a specific agreement about that. So every deal is different. Sometimes the buyer needs finance, and therefore we need to count with the timing of every bank to approve a mortgage and to facilitate the formalization of the mortgage. So therefore, it's a little bit longer.
So just to summarize it, there will be a reservation agreement, there will be a reservation deposit, right? Where is usually this reservation deposit transferred to? And then is it refundable while you're doing the due diligence? And then, since you were going to be breaking it down, same thing for the purchase contract. So after the due diligence, there's going to be a purchase contract. Where is usually this money transferred? Where is it kept or held? Is that refundable? And then, of course, the totality of the amount will be settled at the notary, right? Can you explain a little bit about this process?
Exactly. So there is an initial reservation deposit that in many cases goes to the escrow account, to the client's account of the lawyer of the buyer.
So it's
so it doesn't go to the pocket of the seller, because it stays in a deposit account in normally the lawyer of the buyer, but sometimes goes also to the agency that has the listing agreement. This is a deposit that says, I am serious about this property, but I need to have full confirmation of my lawyer that the property complies 100% with the law, and I can buy this property in excellent perfect legal conditions. If the property is 100% okay, then the deposit is part of this reservation becomes part of the deposit that I have to pay with the contract. But if the lawyer found any illegality, any irregularity, then that deposit that has been up to that moment in escrow goes back to the client. So it's fully refundable. The client will not risk 1 cent of euro at any moment, because what he pays is just like a sign of commitment. I am committed with this property, but only if my lawyer comes back to me with a full due diligence report in a positive way. What is true is that, let's suppose that after 4 weeks of very intensive process of due diligence, everything is perfect. Then the client cannot say, oh, you know, I changed my mind, I don't want to buy that property. No, the seller has kept that property off the market, has provided a good set of documentation about the property, has missed the opportunity of selling that property to some other potential clients that maybe have been trying to make an appointment to go and see the property, and he's been saying no, and then the property is 100% legal, and the buyer says, I don't want to buy the property anymore. In that case, of course, the deposit is non-refundable, because that's the compensation that the vendor retains for a property that was effectively 100% correct, and the buyer has changed their mind and he's been missing opportunity to sell it to other families, right, in the meantime. So, but if the property is 99% correct only, then the deposit is fully refundable. It's got to be 100%.
Meaning at the time of signing the private purchase contract and making the bigger installment of usually 10%,
yeah.
Right? Because what's the standard or the usual reservation amount that is...
Well, this depends on the price of the property. There is no standard.
Okay.
The law doesn't regulate one specific amount, and this is really customary by people to say 1%. Sometimes it's very fixed, a deposit of 25,000 euros, 50,000 euros. With smaller price property, maybe 10,000 euros. So there is no standard. Sometimes the vendor says, I want to see a certain serious deposit. I don't want to touch any money, but I want to see that the buyer is really placing a more serious deposit than 6,000 or 10,000, maybe 25,000. I don't want to touch that money, but I want to see that kind of commitment. So it depends on every deal.
So after that has been all checked and it's all fine, all right, the property is perfectly legal, has no irregularities, we would jump into a private purchase contract.
Correct.
Between the parties, where usually the deposit is 10%. Does it vary as well? I guess this is...
Yeah, it's normally 10%, although, again, the law doesn't regulate that it's got to be 10%. 10% has become, with the pass of the time, the most usual deposit. But we have seen in many cases that I don't have a temper. It's let's say a 10 million euro property, and maybe the seller is happy with 800,000 euros. It's not 10%, but a bit less. Or maybe there is a buyer that says, I have my 10%. I want to pay a deposit, but I want to have a longer completion because I'm selling my company, or because I am really releasing the funds from an investment that I have, and I am not ready to do that in a month's time, but in 3 months or 4 months' time. Can I pay a 15% deposit or a 20% deposit? And are you, seller, happy to wait for me 6 months? And of course, there is a negotiation around it, and there is a deal. So. And in fact, actually, the reservation, the initial reservation, is a very simple document that gathers the agreement in between seller and buyer about 2 points. Price, where is the agreed price in between the two parties, how much is the deposit, and how much is the balance, and the time frame. So we have agreed the property is 1 million euro. We are happy with the 10%, and 6 weeks after PPC is signed will take place. And that is the agreement that is normally in the reservation document. The topics are price, payment terms, and time frame of the deal.
Very clear, and I would say also pretty safe, right? Especially having the right advisory around you. There's a clear time where you can evaluate any risk or evaluate that everything is perfectly fine, and after that you make a commitment, and that commitment can as well be negotiated in terms of a time frame for completion with a higher or a lower deposit, and then the completion would be at the notary public. Very interesting. Now let's talk about taxes. That's also one of the most frequently asked questions that we get when we're speaking to our clients. Sometimes people are a little bit confusing because we have the transfer taxes, then we have wealth taxes, then we have solidarity. I don't want to, spoil what you're going to tell us about it. But yes, please try and break a little bit down so that everybody understands what would be the implication on a tax level for owning a property.
Well, we have to bear in mind that the taxes are involved when buying a property, because in Spain we have two types of taxations, two possible taxations. First is if you buy a resale property, and the second is if you buy a new property from a developer. So if you buy a resale property, and I talk about Andalusia because the transfer tax, which is the tax applicable when buying resale properties, is different depending on the region of Spain that you are. In Andalusia, it's one of the biggest regions in respect of population and also territory in Spain. The tax rate of resale properties is 7%. Flat fee. It's been in the history a lot of things, but now is every property, doesn't matter what the price is, 7% transfer tax. That's the tax that you pay when you buy a resale property. If you buy a brand new property from the developer, then you have to pay 11.2% in total, which is the breakdown of that is 10% is VAT that goes with every payment, and in conclusion, on closing, you pay 1.2% stamp duty to the state governments. So these are the two fields that everybody that buys a property in Andalusia will have to consider: resale or new. 7 versus 11.2 with that breakdown. Once you are owner of the property, you have to bear in mind taxes that you pay to the municipal authorities, to the town hall. You pay a tax called IBI, which goes with every property. This is a tax that you know in advance. It's part of our searches to say, okay, this property pays every year 2,500 euro on the month of October. This will come direct debit. Please bear in mind, this is going to happen every month of October. This is going to the town hall, to the city hall, for the services that are rubbish collection, cleaning streets, gardening, and be a property part of that community. Then you have to also bear in mind what I like to say is imputed income tax. Many people wrongly said, okay, it's the non-resident tax, and it looks like the non-residents in Spain pay a tax, and the residents in Spain, we don't have to pay that tax. No, that's not clear. That's not true. Everybody in Spain, resident or non-resident, we have to pay the imputed income tax. I would like to make it simple, but basically every property has a cadastral value, and there is a 1.1% imputed income. So if a property, let's say a property is 500,000 euros, maybe the cadastral value doesn't have to be 500, maybe it's a little bit less. Normally, in fact, the cadastral value is less than the market price of a property. From that cadastral value, 1.1% is the imputed income. And that imputed income that I would have, it will be taxed according to my rate as a Spanish national and resident in Spain. It will have a different rate, 24%, as a non-European passport, non-resident in Spain. It will go like that. So it's not a big tax, because you see that the imputed income is only 1.1% a year, and the applicable tax is normally 19% Okay, so 19%, and it could go to 24%. But it's not a big tax; it's a small tax. The last tax to be faced and has been regulated in a very turbulent flight, we can say, is the wealth tax, solidarity tax. We used to have wealth tax, and then the government of our state, Andalusia, or our autonomía, to be correct, decided no wealth tax is applicable anymore. And therefore, after that, the government of the whole Spain created this solidarity wealth tax, which is applicable only after 3 million euro per person. So therefore, wealth tax is 0 in Andalusia, but there is a general solidarity tax that it's got to be respected, which is only applicable for the wealth of 3 million per person net. And I say net, which is important because you can offset any mortgage. So if a property is owned, if a property of 10 million euro is owned by a couple, theoretically each one of them has 5 million. It's applicable solidarity tax. But if the property of 10 million has a 50% mortgage, say 5 million, so the property price 10 million minus 5 million mortgage, net value 5. 5 divided by 2 co-owners is 2.5 each, taxes 0. No wealth tax, and the solidarity tax is not activated because none of them are exceeding 3 million euro minimum.
All right, so it's clear that despite the different amount of taxes, there's also always ways of making the structure in which I buy in Spain more efficient on a tax level, right? And this, I guess, is some advice that you and your team can also give to buyers to make the purchase and maintaining that wealth in Spain also the more efficient as possible.
Exactly. We, in fact, really with a certain level of value of the property, we know that no wealth tax is applicable, no solidarity tax will be applicable. But when exceeding certain value, we will work and sit with the clients, with our tax experts. We have a very strong tax law department, and we will analyze the most efficient way to become owner of that property with less tax charge.
One of the elephants in the room lately, they had been announces of taxes for non-European residents being increased. What is your view on this? What would be really, if this becomes a thing, what is really the extent and the...
Well, that was really received by all the community of real estate brokers, real estate lawyers, notaries, and banks, and so with a very big surprise. Surprise because the potential illegality or unconstitutionality of that law was really huge because they didn't respect the Spanish Constitution and as well the European Union Constitution. Second, so therefore there was really hard to believe that this was going to pass. Then with the pass of the time, people are not really giving too much importance because it was announced. It was announced in a certain forum with no strong formality. The law hasn't really had any draft. The majority that you have to go with to the parliament is not with the actual government. So honestly, it was very, very surprising news. But then with the pass of the time, people has really believed that this is never gonna be a real decision and a real situation because of many problematic points to overcome. Number one, legality, constitutionality of the law. The government in Spain has a majority only with the coalition of several different parties of several different wings of way of thinking, regions of Spain, independentist of the left wing, independentist of the right wing. So the government in Spain now needs the coalition of many parties with a strong different opinions of opposition of this. The reality is that this hasn't really progressed. So therefore, real estate sector, industry in general, is very relaxed about this situation.
In my opinion, maybe I missed something, but in my opinion it was also pretty ambiguous. Because when this initial news was sent out, and it's a few months ago, I didn't personally understand if they were talking about increasing or doubling in terms of tax the property value or the percentage of taxation. Was there shed any light on as to what this increase meant?
Those days there was a internal message from the party that was pushing this, Partido Socialista, that was saying double the tax. So if instead of 7%, number one, they didn't speak about the new properties. It was like referring to resale properties only. So number two, it was looking like double tax. So instead of 7% in Andalusia, it would be 14%. Say double tax because maybe in a different region of Spain is 8%, and therefore it's got to be double. So, but then it's never been clarified in a clear way because, and this is really my personal decision, I do not believe this is a clear intention of the government to do it. It was really said in an informal forum after packages of really resolving the deficit of housing in Spain, but I do not really believe this is a measure that will resolve any house deficit at all, and it was, under my point of view, more like a populist message rather than a very serious, well thought measure to be applied.
Okay. Well, that leaves me with some peace of mind to hear that from an expert.
It's my opinion. Yes, it's my opinion.
I share it with you. Another of the perhaps latest news, and this is something I also get asked a lot about my, especially my non-resident clients, is the golden visa. Right, that one has been retracted now. So oftentimes I get the question, Benjamin, can we still, so what are the other ways? Is it still efficient to come and live in Spain, and how would you do it if you're a non-European resident?
Yeah, the possibility of exceeding 90 days every 180, it is perfectly possible. So in the end, the golden visa, it was a quick way to become a Spanish resident via becoming owner of a property of more than 500,000 euros, or other ways as well, like putting down a deposit of €1 million or acquiring shares of more than €1 million in shares of Spanish companies, or 2 million in Spanish government bonds, right? So that was a quick way and very straightforward. But the possibility of becoming a resident in Spain are still there, very solid and quite straightforward and simple. Number one, for those people that are not prepared yet to exceed 90 days every 180, which is really half, it's really half of the year in Spain, then touristic visa really works very, very well, because you are able to stay in a block of 180, 90 days. And I really would like to clarify one of the common mistakes of understanding this system. Many people say, okay, I can be 90 days in the first half of the year, from the 1st of January to the end of June, and I can also be 90 days from 1st of July to the end of the year. And it's not like that. You have 90 days every 180, but it doesn't have to be first block of the year and second. Every single time that you go to Spain and you plan a trip of 14 days, you have to look backwards and say, how many days of my last 180 I have been in Spain? I have been in Spain in the last 180 days, I've been 70. Okay, so you have a credit still of another 20. Right? So you can plan a trip up to 12. And then every single time you have to look backwards and then see how many days you have consumed of you have a credit of 90 days of your last 6 months. So every single time that you come to Spain and Europe, Schengen, then you have to look how many days. So, but 90 every 180 is half, right? So it's really quite a lot. Then I said, okay, this is not good enough for me. I want to exceed that. So that means I want to become resident in Spain. Because when you are exceeding 183 days in a year, you are resident in that country. I want to exceed 180 days a year. I want to become resident. Okay, fair enough. Then you have two ways: non-lucrative residency or lucrative. Lucrative is I plan to establish myself with a business, with the idea in Spain. This involves a business plan and really hire a place and a good, well-studied business plan. And the other way, which is the common and most of our clients use, is the non-lucrative residency, which is I want to enjoy Spain, and I want to live and enjoy Spain more than half of the year. Then you have to have a deposit in a bank account, not very big deposit, 35,000 euros, and regular incomes around 30,000 euros as well. That depends on a number of members of the family and a number of other circumstances. So I don't want to make it very complicated, but with something like that, you can already become owner of resident in Spain. You have to, of course, a place to live. Can be a rented place and can be a owned place, clean criminal records and other formalities, but this is very straightforward and will give you the residence card in Spain. This really works very well. We have a strong immigration law department that will assist with all the particularities, and therefore the possibilities of becoming resident or coming back and forth with touristic visa are very, very strong.
Interesting. There's also a digital nomad visa, right?
Yeah, there is a digital nomad. So for those people, that's a different kind of way of residency as well. For those people that they say, I want to work from home. I know you've been working for a company in, let's say, UK, which is very, very usual because UK was part of the European Union and now it's not, and therefore they will be treated legally as a non-Europeans, non-resident. So if someone has been living working in the UK for a company, or it could be even as a self-employed, can move to Spain and work remotely, and then you can get what is called the nomad visa, which is a way of residency in Spain. Yeah.
Fantastic. Elderly people who want to retire in Spain, we have fantastic healthcare system, the climate, the food. I mean, it's just but brilliant lifestyle. Also for somebody who's maybe receiving their pension, and what are the possibilities? This is very complex for someone who would.
They are really doing the non-lucrative residency. Of course, if you have a European passport, it's simple that you are free to move anywhere in Europe. But if you don't have any European passport, the non-lucrative residency is the one that we apply and obtain systematically, smoothly, without any issues, and therefore once you become resident, of course you have to bring your taxation to Spain, so you have to pay taxes at that very country where you spend most of the year. And if you become a Spanish resident via non-lucrative, then you have to move your taxation to Spain. But that is something that we can also assist to clients, and in a very smooth, simple way.
And help them assess which of the systems or which of the visas is the one that fits their lifestyle and their needs.
Exactly. Yeah. If they are really retiring, it's the non-lucrative residency, that's the usual. If they are really working still, nomad is becoming the very, very popular one. They can work remotely for a company and live in Spain, exceed those 183 days.
Okay. Changing topics, and this is also one of the topics that has been making quite a bit of noise lately. I'm having these conversations quite a bit with my clients, is the update or the change in the horizontal property law in Spain, right? So this applies the touristic licenses, some communities allowing it, others not allowing it. There is a lot of questions about Benjamin, but this apartment already had a license, so now if the community says no, is this a license not valid anymore? If the person sells me the apartment, do I need to reissue the license? And what if the community said no, meaning before they had, now I buy, I cannot issue? So please, could you share and shed a little bit of common sense and clarity into this that will help me, but hopefully also help our audience understanding this a little bit better.
Yeah, the way this is regulated has been under a continued evolution, right? The authorities have been regulated. You have to comply with this. Now this document is not necessary anymore, but this other. The way that now is regulated. Let's not really talk about the regulation of the recent history, but of what today is that you need 3/5, basically 60% of the community owners and community units to both quorum together decide we are not accepting the short-term rental. Short-term rental is less than 60 days. So that is typical for short-term, like equivalent to hotel, the Airbnb and this kind of 5 days, 7 days, whatever. Okay, so the community has the possibility of calling to a general meeting, and by a majority qualified of 60% of property owners and number of units decide no. And I say this double quorum because maybe many people could say, okay, but it's not the same. No, it is not.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you an example that is quite easy to understand. Let's suppose you have a small block of apartments with 10 units. And there are 3 individual owners that they own their own individual property. And there is another guy, the 4th guy, that owns the 7 rest of the units. There is a general meeting, and the 3 individual owners, they say, I want to permit it. And the owner of a 7, he says no. He is the owner of 70% of the units, but he is not 70% of the number of owners, because the number of owners are only 4, and there are 3 out of 4 that said, okay, let's really permit it. So therefore, you've got to have the double quorum of number of units, in this case more than 6 units, but number of owners. So and this is really why this double quorum has to be achieved. Okay. And some communities, they did it without respecting this double quorum, right? So therefore, there's been null and void many decisions of many communities that they thought it was rightly voted, but the number of units was correct, but not the number of owners, which is another tricky, it's a tricky situation. But let's suppose the community says, no, we don't want that anymore. The possibility then of renting out that property short term is gone. It's not possible anymore, because that decision of the community can be made with this quorum, and consequently nobody can rent out that property. And you have to have a certificate from the community administration with the signature of the president saying this is permitted. So that certificate is not that I have to prove that, no, it's got to have that certificate to be able to rent it out. That's how it is regulated. The thing is, many property owners, they say, okay, I have my license and it was granted when everything was permitted and everything is fine and so on. Do I pass that permission to the new buyer of that property, or that permission smokes away with that sale of the property. There is a recent resolution that says, no, this stays with the property, because the property was absolutely in compliance with the law to be rented out, and therefore that stays with the property. This has been so recent that has not been able to create discrepancies and different ways of interpretation of this. So therefore we are now curious to see what kind of evolution and next steps are going to be taken. But good news now is that the license to rent out short-term stays with the property. And if the property is sold to a new owner, the new owner is now, according to this resolution, able to rent it out.
And then let's say my apartment had this touristic license, and then comes the general meeting of homeowners, and the majority decide, no, this community will not allow short-term. Does it mean that anybody willing to issue a new license cannot do it? Or does it also mean that the previously obtained licenses are completely invalid from that moment on?
No, because there is no retroactivity. So it's irretroactive. So basically those very apartments with those very owners that they have the license in place have to be 100% permitted and safeguarded. So any decision that is made from the community about this has got to go from that point onwards, not backward.
But that's a funny point, because if you analyze it, right? Let's imagine a community with so many owners, and there's 3-4 guys who are doing Airbnb, and they don't filter. They're in general maybe not good neighbors to begin with, and they allow a lot of noise, party goers, and it really can be bothering for the community. Those 3-4 apartments who are not behaving or filtering as much. So this raises the question to the community of homeowners. We do the general meeting, we forbid it. So the only thing we are doing is preventing that this community will have more. But those 3 or 4 people who have been misbehaving, they will likely continue to misbehave?
Yeah, well, of course, if you misbehave, the community has the possibility of doing, okay, let's do a reglamento interno, and let's create rules to be respected, and you can have a discipline activity against that misbehaving. But because some people could eventually be misbehaving, of course, and you have ways to regulate inside your community. The time for the swimming pool is from 9 in the morning up until 7 in the evening. Barbecues are not permitted. So this is, of course, something that you can regulate, restrict, and make sure that everybody is living in a civilized way. If everybody respects a set of regulations of the community, which is called reglamento interno, is gonna be fine. So, but of course, that really, unfortunately, some communities, every community is different, right? So, but some communities have finally decided to forbid that activity because the precedent of those cases have been causing a lot of noise or trouble in the community, right? So every case is different.
Changing topics again. This one is a little bit selfish. I would like to hear your impression and your opinion on, and this is big talk as well with my international clients.
Yeah.
They go a little bit, they're a little bit surprised when they learn that the real estate industry, and specifically my profession, is not regulated. And I agree. I also, oftentimes find new agents in the business, and I go, where did you appear from, right? You were yesterday elsewhere, and today you claim yourself you are a real estate agent. What is your opinion on this? But furthermore, what is the process? How is this being regulated, and what can we expect in?
Well, I do agree with you. It should be regulated, and we as property lawyers, we suffer a lot of really cases in which a much more professional and prepared real estate broker could really bring a very strong case. So they're really the lack of regulation is bringing us a lot of headaches, a lot of work, a lot of situations that could be avoided, clients that are completely misinformed about what the property was like, and deals that are not really tied up. So clients that are coming to our law firm and they don't even know what the time frame of the deal was. And then the client buying a property says, I need to complete in 4 months because I'm selling my property in the US. And the seller of the property doesn't know anything of it. And so it could really bring chaotic situation that with a very much more prepared and educated professionals could be avoided. I've been always complaining about this lack of regulation, and I really hope that this is going to be working towards correct regulation.
Yeah. I totally agree, and we may be one of the few industries who are claiming please regulation. You know, I just hope it doesn't go into some over-regulation, which is oftentimes also.
Let's see what then the politicians sometimes are not.
Let's see. Another very important subject and one of the elephants in the room. It seems like we have a few elephants in the room. It's the famous urbanistic planning, or PJOU, how we like to call it in Spain. It's been long announced. There will be a new one. Also, maybe we can also share a little bit of the background as to why today we are still operating with an urbanistic planning that was approved in 1986.
Correct.
And what can we expect in the short to mid-term, hopefully?
Well, I'm optimistic about that this our PJOU finally will see the light. Hopefully, on 2026, which is around the corner, we will see the approval, and it's really quite necessary. The zoning and the planning of a city is really very essential for the growth of the city, because at the minute that all the developers and funds, all the big players, they identify this is where I can grow with my apartments. This is where I can grow with townhouses. This is where I can build my hotel, or I can build my clinics, and so this is gonna give a new explosion of the real estate market, which we need. I always said that the approval of a new planning zoning in a city will give a boost in the real estate economy by itself. It doesn't matter what the rest of the national domestic economy is doing. Just simply by the fact that in your municipality, in your little region, you have the approval of the zoning and planning, this will give an independent boost that will keep a kind of a cycle of expansion, whatever the country is doing at that very moment. And this is really something that Marbella really needs, because it's been suffering a lot of attempts to achieve this, and has gone again to the beginning position. So this is what we have. We have a plan which is provisionally, and because the plan of 2010 was null and void, and that this was decided by our Supreme Court, then we had to go to a plan that was not really thinking about the city that should be today Marbella, because it was a different reality, different society, different motivation of the society in 1986. But after many discrepancies and turbulences, the plan seems to see the light already, has gone through many initial approvals, and it's gonna be hopefully on 2026 it's going to be enforced.
And the moment it is enforced, I guess there's like a process where slowly more projects, more plots are released into the market. It's not one day to the next, right? It's not one day to the next, but that the sellers will say, okay, this is my piece of land. You can build on this piece of land. This is clear. It's regulated. And therefore there is certainty, there is clarity about what you can build, and therefore the developers that inevitably Costa del Sol is formed by
many stronger towns like Fuengirola, Torremolinos, Benalmádena, Estepona, and along, etc. But Marbella is a kind of the epicenter and has got the magnetism of many people that are looking to buy in Marbella. And some of them even came to buy something in Marbella, came to develop something in Marbella, but the lack of legal security, the lack of certainty about what can be built and so on, made them prudent and approach a piece of land to do a development in Mijas or in Estepona or Casares or anywhere else, because the master planning of Marbella wasn't really giving the legal clarity and certainty that they needed to be able to invest big time.
Sounds great. It makes me feel optimistic. Our real estate industry in the last years has proven certain resilience, and even with all the obstacles, right, in terms of urbanism and so on, we've had a very healthy and a very stable market. So it's very infuses a lot of optimism into me to see that some of these major issues are also about to being resolved. Which takes me to, what is your forecast? And now this is again your opinion, and also since you've been so long in this industry, and you mentioned 28,000 clients, so that gives you a very, very big perspective. What is your feeling? What is your personal opinion as to the short, medium term of not only of Marbella, but maybe the entire Costa del Sol continuing to be an interesting place for investors as an investment hub? Because I'm sure that the lifestyle we will keep and the weather will also stay, so this will always be attractive. But from an investment point of view, what is kind of your forecast, your prediction of what's going to be looking for in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, this region of Spain is now immersed in a very clear demographic growth. Under my point of view, we can see that by the inquiries about private schools, inquiries about people that were considering this destination like a very holiday destination, now is deciding to spend 3, 4, 5 months in the year. Some people are becoming residents in this region when they used to be holiday makers, right? So, or users. So therefore, when a region is in the middle of the demographic growth, then it has as well their own cycle of economy that works in a positive way. This Costa del Sol, Marbella, and the rest of Costa del Sol has proven to have a fantastic weather, infrastructure, cosmopolitan mentality, which is very important, gastronomy, and is attracting more and more international players to find a place where the people can enjoy that multinational, international feeling that we have in Marbella. I would really say that one of the most important things that we observe in this region of Spain in comparison with other touristic regions is the diversity. In some other regions of Spain, there are really certain nationalities that they have a share of 50, 60%, sometimes even 70% of the international buyers. So those regions depend on those domestic economies very much. When something is not really moving in the right direction on those economies, those regions of Spain are suffering because they depend on certain nationality. In that sense, Marbella and Costa del Sol is very diverse. There are really more than 40. The other day I was hearing that more than 45 nationalities are coming over consistently and regularly to buy properties. And there is no specific market that is dominating because there is all fragmented in the Scandinavian, but also the Dutch and Belgian, and also the French and the Americans are coming, and Polish and Arabic countries, and every country you can think of in the world is looking to buy a property here. So therefore, economy in one country can be suffering, but there are other many nationalities that could really have a good So therefore, it is very diverse, and therefore the diversity gives a strength. So the combination of Marbella that is not super exposed to two nationalities, but very diverse. The situation of this demographic growth in Marbella, infrastructure, weather, and the number of other factors make me feel then optimistic. Having said that, though, of course, then you can grow that way, but you can grow not really in this way, but you can grow because then prices and times are too much, and then it's got to be adjusted, and then. But my feeling, and I share this opinion with big players from banks, in big insurance companies, and strong developers, that they all share my opinion about this.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Manzanares.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we've kind of covered some of the, most asked questions, frequently asked questions. However, for all the audience, go down to the comment section and leave us your questions if they remained outstanding or unanswered, and our team will definitely take care of it. You're more than welcome. You're going to find the contact details of Manzanares lawyers. You're more than welcome to raise out to Miguel and their team of highly skilled professionals for any questions and any advisory that you may need. And of course, you know where to find us, the agency. We also have a great team of professionals, and we will be always extremely happy to be at your service. So thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Miguel.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And hasta la vista, everyone.
Gracias. Adiós. Gracias.